Welcome to IGH Going Rogue. Today's Friday, March the 7th. And it's usually Law Enforcement Friday. We usually have our pals, Jeff Queen or Robert Arce or Victor Avila, talking about law enforcement or cartels or ICE or what be it. But we're moving that to next week because we have a very special guest. I've been talking about it for a little while. And we finally got him booked, the Pot Lobbyist. Don Murphy, there he is. Hey, Don, how are you? Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on. And hopefully you'll be going rogue, man.
Well, yeah. In fact, I would suggest not to sort of cut you off, but this is a very law enforcement specific issue. So I'm not sure you're kicking anything to next week.
Awesome.
I think we're on message here.
Well, let's start right there. Why is that? Because we know marijuana is a drug. We know it's illegal in a lot of places, right? It's on the DA schedule. Why is this a law enforcement issue?
Well, because I would suggest that if a law is worth having, it's worth enforcing. If it's not worth enforcing, it's not worth having. And that's the gist of what I tell elected officials. Either enforce marijuana law or get it off the books. That's what I'm hoping President Trump will do. And quite honestly, if anybody understands, law enforcement going rogue on him, lawfare, he does, and he understands. Why is it Jimmy Jones gets arrested for weed, a bag of weed, and you've got people in Florida who are growing literally a ton a week and putting it out on the street, and those are, good business people somehow. They pay taxes and all of that, and they're celebrated. If you're going to arrest Jimmy Jones for pot, you got to arrest everybody up the line, as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, Don, that's a great point. That's a super, super great point. Why does somebody on the street get arrested with a dime bag while others are growing tons, right? There's something fucked up about that. And by the way, I know we haven't, talked offline or, know each other from before. I know we share a lot of the same friends, but hopefully you saw the tagline is truth bombs, F-bombs, no bullshit, so let's fucking go, right? So please don't hold back, bring it. People want to hear the truth, and they don't like a lot of sugarcoating on the show, right? So, why does that happen? So it's a money thing, right? It's a money thing. It's not a law thing. It's if you have cash, then you can do whatever the fuck you want. If you don't have money, then we're going to throw you in jail. Is that what it is?
Well, there is a ton of truth to that. I don't sort of subscribe to that being the reason marijuana is still illegal. I think marijuana is still illegal out of ignorance and apathy.
Apathy.
And apathy.
Why? Apathy.
People, because right now, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I'll tell you my history if you want to hear it.
Yeah, please. Walk us through your bio. Because I didn't even introduce you. I was so excited. I just went into the issue, so I apologize. Walk us through, please.
No, we just jumped right in it. But most people right now live in a state where marijuana, either medically or recreationally, if you want to use that term, however adult use, is legal. So they don't understand or maybe even care what is going on in Washington, why Washington needs to move. But money is a big deal for sure. But let me give you the nickel tour on my history. I spent 8 years in the Maryland legislature. I ran for office after my wife was held up in an armed robbery.
Wow.
I ran against the House Majority Leader in 1994 in a district that had never elected a Republican. I had no business running for office.
Wow.
Surprise, surprise, I win. I get elected to a 4-year term, and I'm basically voting to lock up everybody. But after I got reelected in 98, I was introduced to a guy. His name was Darrell Putman. He was a lieutenant colonel in the Army. Here's his picture. Everything I've done in the last 25 years is because of him.
Wow.
He asked me, he said, do you think I'm a criminal because I use marijuana with my doctor's approval to stimulate my appetite? My dad had just died a couple of years earlier. I didn't know anything about marijuana as medicine. I just didn't. Now, for those at a certain age, you wouldn't understand, well, why didn't you just Google it? Because in 1994, 1990, we didn't have any of that stuff,
That's right?
I didn't know what other states were doing, what California was doing. It never occurred to me. Would I have gotten it for him? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I defy anybody to say otherwise, right? That they would. They would do whatever is necessary for their loved ones. And those folks should not be facing criminal penalties. It's just that simple. So he says to me, you think I'm a criminal? And I said, no. I had to think about it just a second. I'm like, no, because I thought this was a trick question, and it kind of was. And I said, no, I don't believe you're a criminal. And he said, well, the law says I'm a criminal, and you're a lawmaker. So unless you do something to change the law or attempt to change the law, you think I'm a criminal. And those words, when I tell people how important it is for them to tell their stories to elected officials, they don't believe it because they'd say money talks and they only care about money. No, elected officials do not. And elected officials need to be educated. And if elected officials do the wrong thing because they're ignorant, it's our fault. It's our 60, 70, 80% of the population agrees with us on this. And yet somehow elected officials or don't understand. They don't understand because they don't have a reason to understand. They haven't been encouraged to understand. All they know is what they saw on the wire, unless we do something to change that. So anyway, that's kind of my story in a nutshell. I didn't run for re-election. The Marijuana Policy Project had come in to testify on my bill, which ultimately became law after I left office. And they said, would you go around and talk to Republicans in these red states or these states where Republicans control one chamber or the other?
Yep.
And I said, sure. And so they basically paid my expenses to fly to a dozen or so states and talk to Republicans. And I've kind of been doing it ever since. It's just one of those things that, like, once I got into, I couldn't get out of. I was, to use your term, I was the pot guy.
Yeah, right. That's what I was about to say. And lo and behold, you became the pot lobbyist, right?
Right. It's like Bob Denver, who played Gilligan. He couldn't get another part after
That's right. That's hilarious. And I'm also from Maryland, the People's Republic of Maryland. It is, I grew up there and moved down to Florida. Back in 2004, a year before I got married. I was going to stay down here for 5 years, ended up being 20. Really got plugged into Florida politics, really heavy, and went back in 2014 and joined Diane at the MDGOP as Hispanic Leadership Council chair and, helped the whole Hogan thing, and then joined the Trump campaign as a media surrogate for 15, 16, and then became a surrogate for the administration and the RNC for Spanish language media for the 4 years. But I'm going to tell you, it was the biggest disappointment of my life moving back home. It's not the same place where I grew up. Everybody is fucking insane. They're moon bats. I think they need a psychiatrist and probably a lot of benzos. I don't know what's happened to those people, but it's not a place I can call home anymore. And I came back home. That's why I have those two flags behind me, the U.S. flag and the Florida flag. I still have family. I still have some friends in Maryland, but most of my friends growing up, got injected with the Trump derangement syndrome, with that virus. And it's amazing how people, will turn on you because of Trump. It's crazy what's happened to people.
I got to be honest. I have a unique situation here. I was a 3-time Trump RNC convention delegate. There are not a lot of people.
Awesome.
I think there are about 10 in the state of Maryland, and I'll guess if you extrapolate, probably less than 500 across the country who were Trump convention delegates in 16, 20, and 24.
Right. So our friend Nicolini and David Bossie and those guys.
All that.
Yep. Man, that's something else. So there's.
By the way, let me just point out, for people who think, well, Trump's not good on this issue, I don't understand in what world anybody thinks that somebody like me, the pot lobbyist, could be a Trump convention delegate 3 times, being vetted 3 times for this, all the things I've done and said about cannabis policy, and yet he's okay with me representing him at the convention.
That's a great point, by the way.
That is one of those things like, well, I think he's better than you think, and I'm Exhibit A. Why? I would not be at the convention.
No.
If I was, had a position that was so contrary to his. Right. And I'll tell you, the dirty little secret is, in this last election, Trump was the cannabis candidate.
Yeah.
He was the he endorsed and voted for and supported Measure 3 in Florida, which is legalization. Yeah. That is something that...
you know what? That's a great point, because we saw that he supported that. here in Florida. Yet DeSantis opposed it, and and DeSantis won that battle, right? And here it is.
Well, did he? Did he? 56%? I mean, I know
On Amendment 3, yeah.
Yes, but a majority of Floridians opposed him on that issue. And,
I mean, dude, look, you had to get 60%. It was tough. Yes got 55.9, 56%. He was short by a little bit. It was close, man. But look, the reality is that Ron DeSantis and that side, really, really had a great campaign. They brought it back to one point that really resonated with everybody, and he said, the issue here is not legalization. The issue is that only one company controls it, and they wrote the bill, and that's not fair.
Trust me.
I was like, oh shit, really? Okay, you know what? Let them pass it again, bro. Let them pass it again. Let them come up with another bill. But no way.
I did not pull my punches. I didn't pull my punches with the company that ran it. Look, I appreciate that they spent a lot of money to do something no one else would do.
Yeah.
But it was a my way or the highway attitude, and people saw that and they felt that, and they voted accordingly. And it's too bad because it gives the opposition a chance to claim some hollow victory.
Yeah.
Even when it proved that a majority supported our position on this. Now, look, I just want to give DeSantis a little credit. In D.C., when he was on Capitol Hill, he was very good on our issue. Very good. He voted for all of the federalism perspective on this, right? The states' rights, letting the states choose.
Decide, yeah.
He was. I had rated him. I had given him an A rating. For his position.
Look, DeSantis.
But then he gets down.
I love DeSantis. He's a great lawyer,
but I don't want it.
Yeah, he's a great governor. He's done a great job here. It's fascinating because he's beat Trump's margins both times. And by a lot. In his victories, right? Well, in the first one, not really, but in the second one, I mean, he won by what was it? Like almost 18%, and Trump won by like 11 or 12.
I got to sort of jump in here. Those were two different elections, right? One is a statewide, one's a federal,
right.
and so the turnout model is different. So you can say that, you can boast that if you're him, but really, did it really work out that way?
Well, you know what? It kind of did, and I'm a Trump guy, dude. I'm a Trump guy before DeSantis any day of the week, and twice on Sunday. But that was the whole argument is, hey, you know what? We won Florida by a bigger margin. We did this, yeah. But it was a midterm election, right? The turnout is an issue, and and I get that. But on Amendment 3, it was a push of wills. Is who's going to win, right? Is it going to be DeSantis or Trump? And look, if you look at majority, Trump won 56%, right? But he didn't get to 60, right? So they kind of took that as a consolation prize and said, hey. Trump kicked our ass in the fucking primary, but we won on Amendment 3, right? So it's kind of funny.
Where it mattered, in New Hampshire, Trump won, right? Like, when they were both running against each other, Trump won. And look, let's be honest, DeSantis kind of looks bad. And I know, since you're down there, DeSantis was nowhere until Trump put his thumb on the scale in that primary for DeSantis. And
then we've talked about that race. He was down.
He bites him. It's like, it was bad form.
Dude, he was down almost 20 points, I think I remember. And, Trump endorsed him, and all of a sudden he was up by like 16 points.
Yeah.
In a week. Yeah. And it was done. Yeah. And it was over.
I met DeSantis a number of times in New Hampshire. I mean, I met him plenty of times on Capitol Hill, but I go up to New Hampshire every 4 years. I'd encourage your viewers around the country, not the ones in Florida because the weather's too nice down there in January, but to go up in New Hampshire that week after the Iowa caucuses, and you get to go meet all the candidates. It's a real good time.
That's awesome, man. So there's a lot of and let's talk this through, right? There's a lot of buzz or rumors or whispering or mis or disinformation, or maybe very accurate information, on the pros and cons. I'd like for you to walk us through them, but I'm going to start with this. there are a lot of doctors out there that say that the brain is not fully developed until you're 26 years old, and that marijuana damages the development of the brain. That's a very key one, that a lot of people, a lot of parents, that resonates with a lot of parents. How true is that? Is it not true? And if it is true, then shouldn't we make it illegal until 26? Then you get into the whole freedom, right? A liberty. And so walk us through some of those pros and cons, what people are saying on both sides. This is an honest conversation. This is not a staged thing. We're not endorsing or anything, even though I think everybody at one point in their life has probably fucking tried marijuana, right? I mean, realistically. So, it's here nor there. Talk to us. Stage is yours.
So I'm not a doctor or a scientist or any of that, so I can't speak directly to that question or that comment. But what I can say is this: the only thing more damaging to the brain than marijuana, than legal marijuana, is illegal marijuana. Right? The marijuana that you would buy on the street corner in a baggie, untested, from some guy you don't know, is likely, or more likely, we'll say more likely, to include all kinds of things,
including fentanyl,
that the legal market will not.
Yep.
Right? I say to my kids, I don't think using marijuana is a good idea.
Yeah.
But getting caught is worse, right? That's the worst part about
That's interesting that you say that.
That's
interesting that you say that. You don't think it's a good idea to use marijuana. You're the pot lobbyist. Talk to us about that. Why? Why the conflict?
I probably shouldn't say this to the world, but I had an A rating with the NRA on gun issues.
Well, you see my little collection here. This is my bullpup. This is my favorite that goes in the trunk of my car every day. It's one of my favorite toys. Look, I hear you. I love NRA.
It is not. It's not worth the paperwork and the legal hurdles I have to jump through.
Oh, in Maryland,
first of all,
Jesus Christ.
Let me point something out.
Yeah.
If I consume cannabis, and let's just assume for a minute I do.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not a huge consumer, but I won't tell you I've never done it. Right?
Of course.
If I'm a consumer and I got that pile of hardware there, I'm subject to federal arrest.
Yeah.
Much like Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Like, the funny part is, and I have been arguing this point for 10 years. I go to the NRA, I say, wait a second. All of your members who consume cannabis, who have a medical card in any
you can't have a gun. Yep.
They're violating federal law.
Yep. Yeah, so I got my concealed carry before DeSantis legalized, no need for it last year, I think. And one of the things is, do you use marijuana? Or do you use any illicit drug? And I don't. Have I as a kid in high school or college years? Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody did at one point, here or there. But I don't. I'm not in favor of weed. As a recreational thing, I think it dumbs people down and makes them slow, or whatever. But I understand one thing, and I'm going to go back to your law enforcement situation and what you just mentioned about the safety of a product. Is there's so much shit out there, including, with any drug, you see the fentanyl all over the place, people buying benzos, buying cocaine, buying stuff, and it's laced with fentanyl, and it's killing hundreds of thousands of Americans every year. Marijuana, if we can control it, and let's say it's pretty harmless. It's a pretty harmless drug, except for what it does to your brain, your apathy, to use a word that you used. Why not make sure that people that are going to consume it, we are in the land of the free and the home of the brave, right? Let them have right. Let them have the freedom to do whatever the fuck they want behind the closed doors in the privacy of their own home, right? The same thing with like gay marriage and things like that. I don't give a shit. Do whatever you want, right? But at least let's make sure that they have something that is not going to kill them, right? And I agree with you with that, because I think there's standards in how you grow it, right?
Right. Opponents often say to me on Capitol Hill, "This ain't your grandfather's pot." And I'm like, all the more reason you shouldn't buy it in a baggie, Senator. Like, it should come, from people that you can trust, because the government oversees seed to sale. They know what it is. They can replicate it on a regular basis, especially if you're a patient. You want to get the same strain and the same potency time and time again. You don't want to, it's not some grab bag where you just get, this literally a grab bag of pot that you get from some guy.
Yeah, and
That's not.
And one of the arguments that I've heard from law enforcement is, and there's two sides of the coin on this is, if you legalize pot, you're supposed to be buying it at these dispensaries or these places but how do we really know? We pull somebody over. How do we know that that pot is legal or, it didn't promote more illegal business? The other side is, if we legalize it, then there's going to be no illegal market. That's a tough one, right? What is your position on that?
Let me just point this out.
Yep.
The problem with that theory, and I have often said, if you want to put a dent in the illicit market, then you legalize, you deschedule, you whatever, and you let industry come in and scale and grow this and sell it. Yeah. But there is a price differential that people will absorb, and there'll come a point where they're like, no, that's as much as we're willing to do. The illicit market doesn't pay minimum wages, doesn't pay health care, doesn't pay taxes, doesn't pay fees. And this idea, here's the problem. Yeah. The progressive side of this, who often are yes on legalization, they want
the hippie crowd.
They want these licenses to go to their preferred constituency. Yeah. That is not free market cannabis.
Right.
Free market cannabis would ultimately create a price that would suppress a price because people could scale, businesses could scale, and could compete with the illicit market. But not when you're trying to lump 20%, 30% taxes on top so that you can give that money out to your disadvantaged communities. No. Look, here's an example, and I love her to death. The governor of Arkansas just signed legislation to fund, and this will get me in trouble with a big bunch of progressives, not that they're listening to your show.
Oh, they listen, man. They listen, and I tell them, love me or hate me, keep coming back, baby. It's all about ratings. So, they're listening to you, bud.
So, in Arkansas, they are funding school lunches with pot tax.
Are you serious?
I'm absolutely serious. I don't make anything up. My world is too real and rich and unbelievable to make stuff up. So yes, they are. And my argument is, look, and this is a medical state, right? This is not recreational. This is a medical Arkansas, and that patients should not be funding school lunches for kids in Arkansas. If we believe as a society, or Arkansas does, the kids should have free and reduced lunch, and kids shouldn't go hungry. I do, but we should all pay for that.
Right.
Patients should not. This burden should not be on the backs of patients.
Well, do insurance companies cover medical marijuana?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow. So that's another problem, right? That's a big problem because I would imagine it's got to be expensive. But let me mention something, Don. Go ahead.
Honestly, I don't want insurance companies to be lumped in with all this at this time, because if they were, they would just be one more industry entity that would be working against us. I just want people not to get arrested and to get a consistent supply of medicine at a fair price. Honestly, they shouldn't have to pay cash. That's why I want safe banking, right? They should be able to go in with a debit card, a credit card, something, and buy their medicine that way. They shouldn't be treated as criminals. And
excellent.
Honestly, that's what we do right now. The president has said he believes medical marijuana is amazing. His word, amazing. Yeah. Right? We should not treat patients differently depending on what state they live in. They should be able to go into, and I know this will make dispensary owner heads explode, but I believe one day marijuana will be ultimately treated as medicine. And this idea that we will have medical dispensaries scattered around the states will no longer work.
Hey, Don, hold that thought. We got to go to commercial break real quick, and we'll be right back. And we're going to follow exactly on this issue. Go ahead, Mr. Producer. Let's tee off our friend.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
All right. So we're back. Are we back with Don? There he is. So I wanted to bring something up. You brought something that was very interesting. First of all, the insurance companies don't cover it. I think they should. Realistically, if it's medical, it's medical, right? People should cover that. Kind of like, they didn't cover Viagra or Cialis before. Now they do, testosterone replacement theories and all kinds of other things. But here in Florida, Don's mic is off, by the way. Okay, he's back on. So what I wanted to bring up is this. Here in Florida, we use the lotto, right? And the funds from the lottery, get used for schools, education, et cetera, et cetera. There is a ton of money, I'm sure, that they can be raised through marijuana to fund all kinds of programs in states. So that would be something, I think, that is a major positive, right? Or no, you don't like it? Okay.
I never talk about tax revenue
Okay.
in the same way everyone else does. I think the benefit to legalizing marijuana is not because, look, if you just use it as a cash cow, you will kill the golden goose, right? To mix my farm animal metaphor here, you will kill the golden goose and the illicit market will step back in. That's what I think. So no, but where you benefit financially as a jurisdiction is the money that you don't spend arresting, prosecuting, and incarcerating people for a plan. And then those same people who have an arrest record spend any time in jail or any time in the criminal justice system, they lose their ability to have jobs that are commensurate with their skill set. So they make less money and they pay less taxes. It's just wrong on every level, right? It just is.
That's an interesting
point. Quite
point.
honestly, I think these jurisdictions and the federal government too is complicit in this whole thing, right? They collect billions of dollars in tax revenue from cannabis sales, yet they deem it illegal. Which is it? It's inconsistent at best, hypocritical at worst, that the federal government continues to do this.
No, 100%. So you've been working on this for years now. How do you see
decades actually? Yeah.
How do you see this happening now? I mean, we have the House, we have the Senate, we have the White House. Do you think there's enough political capital now to get this through?
I do. I think we are in the perfect storm here.
Yeah.
We have a president who doesn't just give lip service to this. Yeah. He's actually done more by his own vote in Florida to say, I don't just believe in this, I actually voted for it.
Yeah.
And now we just need him to do the same thing at the federal level. Yeah. I don't have to sell the president on why this is the right thing to do. And I was quoted in an article the other day. I said, progressives will still hate you. Yeah. They may hate you less, but they'll still hate you. It won't matter, but it is the right thing to do. And when you look at all these inconsistencies in state and federal law, and why we don't enforce federal law, why don't we do it? If you don't believe, if you think I'm wrong, then go arrest these people who run these big multi-state operations, right? Because they are putting out tons of pot on the street every week. Stop messing around with Jimmy Jones on a street corner and go after the big guys. That would stop this whole thing in a second. But that's not what he believes.
Yeah,
and that's
I agree. And you know what? You said something that is so true and so fact. It's a fact, right? A hard public fact, and people still don't believe is, oh, Trump is never going to sign a bill legalizing marijuana. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? He fucking put his whole weight behind Amendment 3 in Florida, publicly endorsing Amendment 3, the legalization of fucking recreational use. What part of he's against it did you miss? You know, and I agree with you, Don. I think this is the right time. I think if we can get it past the House and the Senate, the president will sign that bill. The issue is this, and this is why I think it'll fail, is because the Democrats are going to tie it in with so much pork and crap that they're not going to send a standalone fucking bill to the president. That's the problem.
No, you're right. I agree with that. That they have been a big problem.
Yeah.
They won't even. Yeah, they would not even advance. It's funny. The House sent a very pork-laden bill to the Democrat-controlled Senate.
Yep.
They didn't even hold a hearing on it. So don't tell me Democrats are our friends when it comes to all this. They did not even hold a hearing on what is referred to as the MORE Act, which is in the weeds, not going to happen. But Republicans need to put cannabis legalization, descheduling, whatever, the Prepare Act, the States Act, in maybe the Farm Bill, some omnibus bill, some big, beautiful bill, which honestly, I don't subscribe to big, beautiful bills because they're full of crap.
Yeah,
right.
It's all
That's how they
fucking
get
garbage.
through. Everybody's got to have a little piece, and next thing you know, you've got $1 trillion deficits. So I think the president can get this done. I know he needs Congress, but let's be honest. There aren't too many Republicans in Congress that are going to stand up to the president on this issue. They may not like it, but it is not a hill worth dying on. I talk to these members every day. They may not be good, but they're not going to blow themselves up. Let me tell you something. I had a conversation just yesterday with a senator. I said, "What do you think of Mark Vogel getting released from Russia?" No. He said, "I think it's great." And I said, "Really? Like, why is that great? But if Mark Vogel had gotten caught here, was in the same kind of prison, you wouldn't think it was great if he was let." Like, you're being inconsistent here. We as a country should not fall all over ourselves for people who are arrested in other countries when we're doing the same thing here.
Yeah.
It's
So,
ridiculous.
Mr. Producer, I just sent you a bill that I want the Pot Lobbyist to walk us through, because this is an important bill, the banking bill, on marijuana. Talk to us about that. I know they tried to pass it in the past and it didn't get the votes. Walk us through that while he pulls it up and puts it on.
No. I don't think anybody cares about the details of the banking bill, other than if it were to pass, there would be the opportunity for people to go in and use credit cards. And not only that, but forget the patients for a minute.
Yep.
There are 500,000 people in this industry. Many of them are low wage, sort of entry level. They work the counter, they do the clippings, they do all the trimmings, they do all the planning, all that stuff. Those people can't buy homes because their income doesn't qualify for a mortgage.
What?
Yeah. It's wrong. It's okay to collect $1 billion of taxes, much of it in cash. Yeah. The federal government does, but they don't allow those folks to have access to banking and to mortgages, etc. There are dispensaries that get held up on a fairly regular basis because these businesses, these frontline dispensaries, have to work mostly in cash. And by the way, if you wanted to distinguish the good guys from the bad guys, you asked me that question about how do I know, is this real pot, is this not legal pot, whatever, is that if cash is involved, then you could distinguish. If you had safe banking and you said it's exclusively electronic, it's exclusively plastic, then we could see where the money was going and coming from. Then you would know whether it was legitimate or not.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But if it's all cash, you got $100,000 in the trunk and you go, oh, this is legal. And they're like, well, why do you even have this? If you had safe banking, but you don't. Now, when you said we lost a vote or we didn't have the votes, that's not accurate. We had the votes. We just couldn't get Chuck Schumer, the Democrat majority leader.
Yeah, the penguin. Yeah. He's a piece of shit. Yep.
He would not bring it for a vote. That bill.
Well, I thought they
for
included it in with some
his
pork. Didn't they include it with some other pork-ridden bill at one point? And it failed on a vote, right?
No, they were trying to like load it up with some other things.
Yep.
Here's the thing: safe banking, and the Republicans are now having these hearings on the debanking of legal businesses, firearms, oil, gas.
Yep.
The Democrats, through their Project Choke Point, this was an Obama directive, said banks could, maybe not bank some of these industries we don't like. But you can't have it both ways. You can't be debanking cannabis, which is legal in all these states. You can't make a cogent argument for why it should be debanked. You just can't. This should be, state banking should be included in a crypto bill, in a Project Choke Point bill. That safe banking bill was more about Project Choke Point, in my opinion, and firearm rights than it is just banking of pot money.
That's interesting. And,
The Democrats, by the way, Democrats are to blame. We had plenty of support. I guess we would have 70 votes on safe banking in the Senate, and we just didn't get a vote.
That's insane, bro. That's fucked up. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Look, I'm with you. If there's plenty of places where you can buy medical marijuana, just about everywhere in the entire country. Why not just legalize it, bro? It's pretty ridiculous, and especially this whole banking thing where you got to come up with cash. So you got to go to an ATM, you got to show up, you got to pay cash. I mean, dude, I haven't had cash in my pocket probably in a decade. Everything I do, I swipe. It was bizarre the other day because I had some cash, and I was like, geez, and I went to buy cigarettes, and they gave me change, and I was like, holy shit, what do I do with this? It was like coins. I haven't seen coins in over a decade, and I was like, fuck it. I threw it in the little tip jar, but using currency is weird, and it's dirty too. It's like dirty. I stopped, especially after like during COVID, nobody would use cash, and I think at this point, do we really need cash? I don't know, man. But I think the safe banking bill, I agree with you, and I think there should be. Look, if you're not going to make it illegal, and they're going to be producing it, why don't you just make it legal, control it, tax the shit out of it, and use that money for good stuff. Yeah.
Don't tax the shit out of it.
Well, you have to. You have to. Dude, we tax the shit out of alcohol and cigarettes. Right? So if it's medical, don't tax the shit out of it. If it's recreational, tax the shit out of it. Absolutely. And use that money for good shit.
Right. If it's medicine, it shouldn't be taxed.
I agree.
And that's my other big argument in Arkansas.
Agree. Yeah.
And look, I know elected officials, how they think, and I was one, so I know, right? Oh, we're going to bring in all this money. Yeah, but if you're going to bring in all this money and then spend it on crap that you wouldn't vote for anyway, what's the point? That is not a winning argument.
Yeah.
For Republicans,
right?
It's just not.
Yeah.
Not so.
So where do you see the vote if this thing? So again, they're not going to pass safe banking and legalization of marijuana standalone bills. They're gonna throw them in with a big. Hopefully, they can push it with Trump's tax bill because that'll get passed, and that would be gold, right? That would be gold because you get it passed. Everybody's going to vote for that. Sneak it in there. But if they throw it in on a bill that is destined to die, that would be very disappointing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Have you talked to Leader Thune? I mean, what does he think? Where's Leader Thune on this? Because I know where McConnell was, right? But where's Thune on this?
Well, it almost doesn't matter because Trump is such a huge figure in this debate that even the people who are no just aren't that rabid of no. I don't like to kiss and tell. I don't like to, talk about conversations I have with members, but I've had some conversations with members who are in really crazy states like Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And they don't like what's going on in Oklahoma. And I keep making the case to them that they would make excellent, honest brokers in this conversation. That the reason that Oklahoma is the wild, wild west is because elected officials didn't do their jobs. They turned a blind eye. You had a couple of crazy people with wild ideas draw up an amendment. It passed with a huge margin. And one of them said to me, like, do you realize what they voted for? And I'm like, yeah, it's so bad that it proves that they would have rather had something that they cared so much for legalizing for medical purposes. They were willing to take all the other crap that went with it.
Yeah.
You guys could have done your jobs and fixed it.
Yep.
So come to the table with your plans. Republicans have the opportunity not to steal this issue from Democrats, but to pick up their fumble. Democrats had the chance to do this, and they didn't. And they can point fingers all day long, but they didn't even try. They didn't bring the bills to a vote on the floor and have them fail. They just kept them in the drawer and then try to blame Republicans.
I love that. I love that.
I
love the fumble analogy. I think it's a great one. And, you know, there's something true about what you said. You know, I read your article. I read the article where you were quoted where you said, you know, okay, well, progressives are not going to hate you any less, but, you know, it's the right thing to do. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there are a lot of progressives that are very much for legalization of marijuana that, you know, also share some other things that would vote for President Trump or may be more open to Republican policies if they get a win. Because this is very near and dear to their hearts, especially on the medicinal side for cancer patients, or they have a family member or things like that, that, you know, they would take that as a very solid gesture and you know, but yeah, I think the moon bats, the hippies, the crazies, they're not going to move. They'll probably hate them even more, right?
Yeah, I would say, and you and I hang around maybe with a different group of progressives, but I'm up here in Washington.
I don't hang out with any of them. I don't hang out with any of them, buddy. They don't like me. They'll never, you know. That's why I'm armed.
You don't even know. So you don't even know what you're talking about.
There you go. There you go.
Listen to this. The progressives I'm in company with, in the company of,
Yeah.
won't stand up and applaud a kid with brain cancer.
I know.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep. It's disgusting. I mean, going back to the State of the Union to see that display was heinous at best. It was evil at its core. When they can't sit there and have any empathy for a kid with, you know, terminal brain cancer, with a girl that suffered brain damage because of a transgender men smashing a ball to her head, you know, Jocelyn being murdered by an illegal gang member, and they can't have any empathy for their families or for their people. Really shows you at the core what the Democratic Party is today and who they become. It's not Bobby Kennedy's party anymore, and that's why he's on our side. And I think, you know, I wanted to kind of tee into that. So thank you for that lead in. You know, I think Bobby Kennedy isn't helping this, isn't he? Where is he on the whole marijuana situation?
Well, he is very good on this. I mean, he has said multiple times,
Yep.
you know, prior to his coming on board with the Trump administration, that he was very much for legalization, ending, you know, prohibition, that sort of thing. During his confirmation hearing, he sort of walked that back and said, you know, he'd follow the science. I'd be happy to follow the science. We don't really get any real good science because it's federally illegal. It's a Schedule I drug, which, by the way, is why insurance companies cannot pay for this, because you can't even get a prescription. You get a recommendation. I don't know if you have a card. I don't have a card. But you cannot prescribe a Schedule I drug. If it moves to a Schedule III, then insurance companies may be able to get involved in this. But until then, it's not deemed medicine by the federal government.
Does it pass this term? Does it pass this year?
I believe that Schedule III is basically in the bag.
Yep.
When Biden started the process,
I got to buy marijuana. Mr. Producer, we got to buy marijuana stock immediately after the show. It's coming from the pot lobbyist himself.
No. I think that they've already had that. That's already been sort of figured into the mix of stock prices, and I don't talk about that. And just for the record, I am not invested in the cannabis sector at all in any form or fashion.
That's a great point.
I don't work for anybody that, you know, is in the industry. I don't represent the industry. I care most about patients this one,
Yeah.
who by the way, I didn't mention, but he actually passed away before he could testify on the bill that bears his name.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
He,
amazing.
he literally, this is Daryl Putman, used his last breath to lobby for marijuana legalization for medical purposes. He felt that strongly about it, and I will forever be in his debt. And there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, and a ton of people in the state of Maryland, but elsewhere, because I went around and told his story, that have benefited from what he did.
That's
So
amazing.
If
We'll be
you
right.
have a story to tell, you need to tell it to people who can actually do something and not just
Yeah.
scream about it into the Twitter sphere.
Yep. We're going to be right back. We got to go pay the bills, and we'll come back with Don Murphy.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupted this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows, only $14.98. Queens, $18.98. King size, only $1 more. Body pillows, $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
All right, we're back with Don Murphy. Don't forget IGH, promo code IGH. Get 80%, and let's help our friend Mike Lindell move a lot of MyPillow products. I personally love them, and especially the mattress topper. Man, it's like floating, sleeping on clouds. It's amazing. Don, I don't know if you have any MyPillow products, but you got to get some. They're fantastic. Back to pot. Back to pot. You're on a roll.
If you have if you have that pillow topper, maybe you don't need marijuana for.
Hey,
sleeping,
that's my excuse. I don't need weed to sleep. I have a mattress topper, so I sleep like a king, man. Like if I was high every night, you know. But if this is going to pass, right? And I truly believe this is the moment. Do you think there's the leadership in the House and the Senate are going to include it in the big bill? You think it's going to be included, both the banking and the legalization?
I do. I think the president. Look, I have a lot of people screaming at me on Twitter who are like, Trump promised this, and he hasn't done anything. I'm like, are you serious? You gave Biden and company a 4-year pass. And then you wonder why in 40 days Trump hasn't done, something on your issue. Marijuana, like it or not, and maybe this is a good thing, is not a top 10 issue.
No.
It's not a 100-day we got to do issue. Why? Because in most states where state enforcement is at the state level, they've stopped arresting people for marijuana. Now, that's not the case at the federal level, but the whole system is gummed up because of the federal prohibition. Yeah. And when that is ultimately lifted, and I'll even argue there are some people in this business who don't want me or us up here to succeed because they like it the way it is. They are insulated from the big boys, big alcohol, big tobacco, coming in and taking over, which would be easy to do. I do believe that if and when that happens, that will benefit patients. Patients will get better quality at a lower price, more convenient than they do now.
So what are you saying? What are you saying?
I don't Amazon. I don't know. I could no more wrap my head around the fact that there are cannabis chambers of commerce. When I was doing this 25 years ago, when I met Daryl Putman in 1999, people would say to me, "Yeah, Murphy, but where are they going to get it?" And my answer was, same place they get it now. They just won't be arrested for it.
Yeah. So let me ask you something. Did you say that there's a fear that Philip Morris, R.J. Reynolds, et cetera, would get into the pot business?
Sure. In fact, that's what our opposition claims. They are running against big cannabis, big pot, much the way that DeSantis did.
Yeah.
Right? DeSantis ran against the idea that there would be a monopoly.
Yeah.
There really wasn't going to be a monopoly. Were there going to be big boys and small boys? Was there going to be a McDonald's and then a Wendy's? Yeah. You can go to Wendy's if you want. Are there more McDonald's than Wendy's? Yeah, but so what? But that was his argument, and apparently it worked.
Yeah.
It worked enough.
That's very interesting. Well, look, I think, look, I'm in business. I've launched companies, and et cetera. I understand, how hard it is to raise capital. It takes money to make money. And, if there's an opportunity in the market, capital will find its way to be part of that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because what you don't want to do is do a half-ass business and take shortcuts, right? And especially when there's quality controls that are very important, especially, if you're going to be consuming it for medicinal or even recreational. What you don't want to do is be ingesting something that could kill you, right? So how is that a bad thing? Why is that bad that big capital would want to get involved and big companies would want to get involved? I don't see how that's a bad thing. I think, they have a proven model. They know how to run a business. They pay their employees very well. They know how to make payroll, how to pay benefits, everything. Why would that be bad? I think you got to look at it from a job creation standpoint. That's fantastic news, right? That's a huge positive.
It would only be bad if big business got in. It would only be bad if you were a medium-sized business and you were subject to getting squashed by the big boys. By the way, there are 500,000, I know I mentioned this earlier, 500,000 people who were involved in this industry. Their jobs, their employment statistics are not included in the monthly job stats.
Wow.
500 people who are not in the mix because their jobs are illegal. And the strange part is there's more. There's like, if you used marijuana, I remember when Biden came into office, the hypocrisy of this is Biden comes into office and he fired a handful of staffers, White House staffers, who had previous marijuana use, like not convictions, but they had previously used marijuana. Yeah. Like, seriously? And I mean, I love what Elon Musk is doing, but he literally blew smoke in our faces, our collective faces, online. And here he is doing what he's doing. It's just, really? Look, I'd love for the Joe Rogans of the world, the Elon Musk of the world, to just have a little sit down with the president and say, this is wrong. It's time to do something.
I think that's happened, by the way, Don. I think that's happened, and that's why I'm with you. I think the legalization is here. It's going to happen. That's why I wanted to get you on the show, before it happened, so I could claim that I influenced this decision and claim a win for going rogue. But no, realistically, kidding aside, I think you're right. I think the votes are there. I think the president will sign that bill. He's obviously shown tremendous public support for it here in Florida by pushing Amendment 3. Why wouldn't he do it on the national level? I don't understand an argument,
look, think about this. We didn't talk about hemp at all, but this intoxicating hemp that is out there that is now legal because of the
That's like gas station stuff, right?
Well, but Trump signed the Farm Bill in 2018, unbeknownst to anybody that, they've taken hemp and they've turned it into not just rope, but rope, like things that are intoxicating, and they are purchased legally in gas stations. And we don't know what this stuff is. And it's kind of a mess. Now, I'm not dumping on the hemp industry at all. I love them, but I do keep my distance because before hemp was legal, the Republicans were afraid that I was going to try to load the hemp bill up that was sort of moving, or the farm bill up with cannabis. We'll call it, we'll sort of distinguish between non-intoxicating hemp and cannabis, THC cannabis. And I said, I will stay out of this. I will encourage all my advocate friends to stay out of this. Hemp should be legal, and it shouldn't be illegal because, we're afraid cannabis is going to be sort of brought into this. And this was a way to legalize marijuana. Didn't want to do that. It's the same plan. We ought to be able to figure this out.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think Trump is the guy who can get that done.
Yeah, and you know what? Look, I mean, realistically, we're both long-term Republicans. We've been, with the party for a long time. Trump is not a traditional Republican. He's not maybe even Republican. He's a pragmatic business guy with a lot of common sense, and this is a common sense issue. And I think that's why it's going to pass.
I like to say he's a populist, and there are very few issues left, 80-20 issues that haven't been fixed or won't be fixed by the president with an executive order.
Yep.
Guys and girls sports, all these like simple things that he's doing with the stroke of a pen. Some of this can be resolved with his attorney general getting involved in Schedule 3, putting his thumb on the scale with Tim Scott, the Republican chair of the Banking Committee.
Yeah.
Dave Joyce is the sponsor of the Safe Banking Act on the House side. Brian Mast and Dave Joyce are the co-chairs of the Cannabis Caucus. Brian Mast, you may know, right down there in South Florida, a good friend of the president. You obviously can speak for the president or used to speak for the president. You will probably see him before I do. Feel free to mention this when you can.
Absolutely. We got, I know you got to go. We got about 30 seconds. What are your last words?
My last words are, if you are watching this and you're a conservative and you're represented in Congress by conservatives, you need to get on the phone and say, what the hell? Like, why is this the case? Why are you, where are you on this? I'm happy to help, people sort of figure out who's good and who's bad. I don't like to just blurt it out, but look, I love these guys. I could love them more. They just need to do the right thing and be consistent.
Fantastic. Don Murphy, the Pot Lobbyist. Thank you very much, Don. It was very, very educational. We needed to have this conversation. Hopefully you'll come back either after this passes or before, but you're welcome on the show anytime you want. It was a fantastic conversation. I appreciate it.
Hey, look, it's freezing up here. Next time I come on the show, I'm coming down to your studio.
Sounds good, man. I have said that I'm not going back to the People's Republic until probably mid or late April. You guys had a horrible, horrible winter, man. I'm glad I missed it, and I'm glad that I did not even venture up on January 20th because I knew it was just going to get shut down, and I'm glad I didn't. So awesome, man. Follow Don Murphy. There's his Twitter, his X. And I'm pretty sure, you're going to hear about a lot of people. So it is what it is, right?
Terrific. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Don Murphy, we didn't go into his background a lot. He gave us the, like he said, the nickel tour, but long-term Republican, two-time elected official, excuse me, Trump delegate at the RNC. Overall good guy, and he's obviously pushing for this. You've heard his arguments, pros and cons, and it sounds like there's a lot more pros than cons. It's probably about the right time to do this. We'll be back next week. Excuse me, I got to quit smoking, right? We'll be back next week. We got a full lineup. We're going to be back with Law Enforcement Fridays. We're having some special guests. We're trying to get a doctor, a famous doctor, a nephrologist, PhD, who's done a lot of research on vaccines. And hopefully we can get her book next week. Love to have that conversation. Especially with this whole measles outbreak, euphoria that the left-leaning media is pushing out there to try and promote more vaccines. And, and the crazies with the whole COVID, and vaccines for this and vaccines for that, and Gardasil for babies, and who the hell knows what else. So we're gonna have an expert to talk about that, why it's good or why it's bad. We'll hear her out, but I'm looking forward to having her on the show and many other friends. And we're gonna be reporting again from the border, from ICE, and find out what the cartels are up to, because I know they're up to a lot of bad shit. So we're following them. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Cheers.